Hey guys, welcome to the Stream Space, or welcome back if you've been here before. We have another how-to for you. Now, we did a Joy-Con video for normal, standard Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons, but that's not where I think the story needs to stop. I think we need to talk about the Switch Lite as well, obviously with its Joy-Cons being integrated into the system. I was actually curious if you could even do a replacement on them, and it appears that you can, and that even the part itself is the same. So, we have... This is a client's Switch Lite, and you can see, very obviously, what is actually damaged on it. This entire Joy-Con component has been basically sheared in half by something. So we're going to pull it apart, and we're going to show you the process and kind of like what to watch out for when you're doing something like this. Okay, so we're all set. We got all our tools and everything. So we're going to go over where all the screws are before we do anything, just so you guys have an overview of what we're dealing with here. So these are down by the charging port. You got two right here, and if you're wondering, like, what are they? These small ones specifically are Phillips head. However, any of the ones along the side here and here, so top and bottom are Phillips head, and any of the actual ones on the back plate are the tri-tip screwdriver. You do commonly see that in iPhones or in Nintendo devices. They were one of the first producers to actually use that screw, and it's basically a security screw. Keeps people out of the things they don't want them playing with, you know, back when they could enforce warranty voiding by opening things up. Can't really put that sticker on things anymore, though. It's actually illegal. So yeah, we're going to start by undoing all the screws. Just so you're aware of our tool, kind of our tool set here, what we got going on. We've got this kit from Amazon. It came with 4 Joy-Con sticks, so we could do potentially 4 different replacements. It came with all these extra thumb grips, some spare screws just in case, even some springs. And then you've got, that screwdriver's not part of it, just to be clear. You got this one, though, which is basically the same thing. So you get 2 screwdrivers, and you get a pry tool, which I don't personally like them, but it's soft plastic, so it's not going to scratch the heck out of anything, and some tweezers. So, as well as another device for prying it. It's another type of pry tool. A lot of people would just call it a guitar pick. Anyways. Yeah, so we've got all of our stuff kind of ready to go here, and in addition to this, and this isn't really part of it, this didn't come with this kit or anything, we have this magnetic mat, and you could probably get one for a Switch Lite, or any other device, or even just a blank one for that matter, but it basically lets me put the screws down and not have them roll off on me, which, when you're on a surface that can move around, or just, even if there's even a slight slant, they'll just fly away on you, so that stops that from happening. Okay, so this is the tri-tip. Let's see if I can get you a good... It's kind of hard to get a good look at it, but yeah, it's a tri-tip. So we're going to deal with the tri-tip screws first. We like to sort all of our screws by phase. No, I'm a dummy. That is our... that's not the tri-tip, that was the Phillips. Oh. So that's the screw right there. Just drop it onto the mat, and then I can keep the phases separate. So phase 1 is the back plate. Let's get all the back plate screws off. Okay, and move that over. Again, using our screw mat to keep everything nice and organized. Try to let you guys see if much this. See, this isn't really a super important part, right? This is obviously, we got to use this when we're putting it back together and stuff. So we're trying to make sure, when we get inside it, though, that you guys to see everything there is to be aware of and worried about. With sensitive electronics like this, it is all too easy to actually break and damage things. In fact, fun fact, I did it with a Nintendo 2DS not even 2 weeks ago. Okay, so there's your first of the 4 phase 2 screws. They're significantly smaller. These screwdrivers also come semi-magnetized, but I'm okay with them not doing it sometimes. Okay. Now these ones are on either side of the charging port, as you can see that. So we'll They're all the same size, by the way. The top and the bottom ones, they are the same size. Okay. Okay, those are done. Now we have to try and very carefully figure out how this lifts off. I try to do this with my hands at first and then use prise if it actually fights me. Because there's probably going to be side clips that actually hold everything, hold the back plate onto the actual device. Taking a good look at it. Okay, yeah, so it looks like the back is going to be our best place to get started on this. Again, try to use as soft of a pry tool as you can. We have metal ones on hand, but you see how easy that came up? Try to keep a good grip on both the actual back plate and the part that it's coming off of, because if there is a ribbon cable, maybe the card readers are attached to the back plate in some way, you want to make sure that you don't fly off and then tear those ribbon cables, because I can promise you they will be annoying to fix. Okay, so we got it coming apart. Just moving our way down. This one might be a little harder to do because this is where the card reader actually is. So sometimes it's got to lift over that. Just a little tip, guys. Make sure you are removing all of your cards from this. So remove your memory card, remove your game card. Do not leave them in while you do this. Okay. Do we got anything on the back here? Move your fingers down slowly so you can give yourself a really good view, as good as you can expect. And then you pull it back, and then now we should be able to lift the top part off. It should come forward. What do we got here? It's fighting us a little bit. Yeah, it has a headphone port, so that's probably why. Those tend to fight you a little bit because they hook on it. Then you can use your finger or that other pry tool. You can actually jam it in a space as you move down so that it cannot reseal itself, because that's another common and annoying thing that these things will do while you're working on them. There we go. Just gave me a bit of a fight, not too much. Now, just pull that away nice and gentle. So there's your back plate. You can see where the card reader goes. This is for your memory card. This is for your game card. So comes off. There's those vents. No damage. There's the serial number. Somebody very well may have been in here already. It's got an A etched into it. That could just be them labeling parts, but possibility that it is not that. Okay. I want to set that well out of the way. All right. Now here we are. Got some cracked plastic on the inside. It's not from us. That's from when the device was broken initially. Honestly, I'm surprised that's all that's running around inside it. So we got our Joycons are up here. Just looking at it, look at all this extra tech and stuff you gotta remove. So it looks like this entire silver backplate has to come off, because this is where the heating and everything is. And then you got your batteries probably behind it. Okay. Joycon up here. That's not a Joycon. This one's down here, it's lower, it sits lower. Okay, so we're gonna start over here, and we're gonna see if we can lift this up nice and gentle and see if we can actually see the Joycon itself. It looks like it might be underneath a circuit though, so it will kind of play it by ear a little bit, but not too much. Also, when you're pulling it apart, be aware there's where your power buttons and everything go, so don't, be careful removing all of that. They are meant to sit a certain way, so right now it's at an angle, so I will have to make sure that actually gets propped up properly. And there's the rubber pad for those buttons. You can see it's perfectly straight, so we want to make sure that that matches when we're done. All right. Make sure we're working on the right side there. Adjust this so you guys can see what we're working on. Actually, we'll let this side sit slightly over the edge because that's where the other Joy-Con is. There's the piece. So what Joy-Con looks like when it's not inside something. Okay, so we're basically ready to start removing this silver plate. Now, just as a heads up for anybody just kind of checking this out, when it comes to the right stick versus the left, to get at the right one, this board will actually come off really nicely if you just undo all the screws on it and then the ribbon cables and stuff. Like, this board itself will come off nicely, and that's how you get it, that Joy-Con. We're dealing with, this is the, what is this, the left, that's the left Joy-Con. We're dealing with the right, and unfortunately, that one is actually a way more, I would say, if you had to compare them, it is more complex, right? So we're going to take off this big heat shield, and this is about 4 screws to do that. So just got to figure out where they all mount. Oh, had the wrong screwdriver. I was trying to use a tri-tip. You do need a Phillips. Micro Phillips, I guess, is what it would be called. So we'll go and remove that one. And I like to sort my screws into phases, so I would consider this phase 3. Actually 4 if you count the speaker screws, which, fun fact, you actually don't need to remove that. So I'll pop these back on. This comes off on its own. There's a specific screw for holding it in place. Once it's off, it comes off. Doing our best to show you what we're doing. Unfortunately, we have one thing for filming right now. We are planning to make an improvement to that at somewhere in the near future. Pop those back into place. If ever you're screwing something like this in and you feel resistance, I do urge you to stop. So this piece down here, right here, leads up into this speaker. This is what this is. It's a speaker. Kind of wedges into kind of an L down below. So we'll get this heat shield off and then we'll go from there. So next screw is kind of in the middle right here, right under the actual fan. Just trying to get it to focus. There we go. Okay, drop it on the mat. This screw down here. Just remember to take your time with this stuff. And now it's my own personal preference, but also because I used to work in an electronic shop that our job, our whole shtick was to rebuild electronics. So I have always had a thing against using metal tools on plastic, like, and ribbon cables and other such things. So everybody's a little different, and that's fine. Oh, I see where there's the last one. Okay. And set that one aside, because while they're technically part of the heat shield phase, it is bigger than the others. So the ones that are actually in the heat shield itself, like more like centralized to it, they're small and silver, whereas this one is more like a brassy gold. So just always set that aside, so that way you don't mix them up, because you don't want to overscrew something into that, because it's not going to play nice. If you do that, you could actually cause some pretty severe damage to what you're doing. Oh, that's weird. Looks like somebody may have been in here already. Kind of came to that conclusion with the parts labeling. So here's now, this is the component here. So we have to remove this, this, and this to get at what we're trying to get at. The screw for the speaker is underneath the heat shield right here. So you have to take the heat shield off, even just to take the speaker off. We'll start with that. I'll make sure I let you guys know when we work with any other screw type. So if we got a move to back to tri-tip, okay, so we're going to start undoing some of the CPU cooling screws. So for the cooling, they're for the heat sink right here, which leads up to that lovely fan. We're not going to touch thermal paste if we can avoid it. We're not here for that. But these are the screws. So one right here, here, here. And then you have to lift it gently so that it comes off. Okay, so just start doing that. We'll make sure we show you guys once it's off. So, and the lifting procedure. And honestly, changing the Joy-Con itself is not so much the hard part. It's getting to it. There's a lot of stuff in the way. Easier if it's the other one. But honestly, this might be why if I do one of these in the future, I might charge a little bit more. Okay. Those are all lifted, I think. Does the fan have a screw of its own? It might. No, just needed a very, very gentle pry. Sometimes when CPU coolers, they can kind of get stuck to their thing. So you have to be very careful about removing them. Okay. So this is just glue adhesion, kind of holding this to the fan itself. This is a vent. So it's meant to basically push all the heat out. So I'll show you the part once we get it lifted up. You always want to remove this part super gentle, because it's not attached to the fan any other way than by adhesion. So this is the vent. This is the top of your switch. This heat sink pulls the heat away from the CPU up over here, and then the vent pushes it off of the vent and out of the device. Okay, we're moving right on to the next phase. So now we have our headphone jack and card reader for games exposed. So we're going to start by taking that off. And again, as a reminder, if there's a game in there, remove it before you do this. Honestly, you shouldn't have gone this far if the game is still in there. Please see earlier disclaimers. Anyways, so yeah, we're going to pry this guy out of here. All right. Now, the headphone component is held in by 4 screws. We're going to go over what we do. Take out 4 screws here, 2 here. Well, actually, sorry, to give you a better view. There's 3 that hold in the card reader and a ribbon cable. So this ribbon cable is responsible for both headphones and your card reader. So you want to be really careful when removing this. So we're going to start with the screws. Try and give you as good of a view as possible. Okay. Okay. Now, in the case of what we're doing, we do have to go a lot further into what we're removing because of just where this happens to live. Okay. There's the headphone jack screws. Okay. So now we're working on the card reader. Again, we're still on Phillips screws. We're going to put them all together because they all belong to that same piece of it. Okay, and okay, so now that one's out. Now it's got a lift gate ribbon cable, and there's another board screw right here that we're going to undo because we have to take this board out. That's basically the reason this is more complicated. We have to take the board out in order to even get at the Joy-Con. Slightly aside, right? Okay. Now lift gates. Let's bring it to you so you can see what I'm talking about. You got a lift gate right here. Just try to use your fingers. You don't necessarily need to involve a tool for that. Okay, and the headphone jack and the card reader, as I mentioned, are a single piece. So make sure they are both loose and do not pull super hard. If you wreck this ribbon, they're both done. You have to replace them. In some cases, especially with disk drive consoles, you can't replace their reader. The disk drive is often married to the board, which means you have to replace the board as well. I hope that would not be the case with these as well. Okay, so now we got some ribbon cables to undo. This one. I think for good measure, this one as well. Just because I don't know what it's connected to. I can't see behind it. So, and then one more over here. So, all in all, you have 4. You got the one right here, one right here. When you remove the card reader, that's this one. Then this one, and this one. There are also the 2 Wi-Fi antennas right here. You need to pull those off. I mean, they will likely disconnect before any damage is done. So if you forget, as long as you're gentle when you're moving it up, I mean, they'll resist, and then you can very easily find your resistance point there. In the case of what we're doing, we are going to just undo them. Forgot to remove the cover from these, just a sec. Okay. Now they're just little circular connectors. They just click into place. As long as you're gentle when you're attaching or detaching. I do stress caution when reattaching them, because if you don't have the socket lined up quite right, you can actually bend the tiny pin in there. It's kind of a pain to fix if that's the case. Okay, we're going to open up the lift gate for this ribbon cable and disconnect it. Very, very gently. If you do use a small set of tweezers like I am, just feed them underneath, real gentle, and just work it out. Kanye style, without the bad music. Okay. Get out of there, you little bastard. There we go. Yeah, so bend it away from it so it doesn't catch in it again, and close the lift gates. As you work on them, I was advised to close them after the fact. And we got one right here. Okay, that one's open. And squeeze that in there. Okay, that one's gone too. Again, pull it away from the board. Close your gate. Get this one next. This looks like part of the battery. Okay. And this one's in a position where I can just wiggle. And you got your battery connector under that ribbon cable, so you do have to put that back in order. Just looking at the cable here, it's not super gnarled or anything like that. Okay, just kind of hold it like that. Okay. Okay, that is what, that is a clip, right? That is not a, it doesn't have a gate, doesn't have anything holding it in place. It is literally just something you can push down. So we've closed our lift gate. We've disconnected the Wi-Fi, battery, that ribbon cable, which I believe connects this board to the rest of it. I'm almost certain that's what it does. What do we got left? One more ribbon cable, right? Nice long one. Right there, where my thumb is. Okay, pop that open. Very rare occasion where actually, because it's so thin. I'm being too gentle. There we go. So there we go. Now it's out. So once again, super duper gentle. Push that in there. Pull it away. Then use your finger to adjust it. Close the clasp. All right. So all the ribbon cables from that side are done. We got one more right here. This leads to the actual Joy-Con itself. That's the thing we're here to replace. And then we got this piece right here. Just gonna try and wiggle that out there. Doesn't screw in, I don't think. We'll double check. I'm gonna undo that bottom screw just to be safe. Last thing I need is to break something. It's been a pretty broken week. So we don't need to do that. No, all that does is hold the bottom piece on. Whatever. We'll take care of that once the other everything else is ready to come off. So we're gonna undo. This is the charging port, which doesn't hold the charging port on. It probably, from what I can see here, holds the rest of the board to the frame. Okay. of screws on this. It's a little screwed up. I gave y'all a couple seconds to react to that horrible humor. We're going to move on now to the part that'll make you like us. Okay, so again, I'm going to show you the Joy-Cons ribbon cable. While I always advise caution, like especially though if you know the part is broken and there's no fixing it, you don't have to be as gentle for this part. So it's another liftgate one, so you might actually need tweezers to get at this one. Oh, no, because I'm dumb and already opened it. Okay, and that's up, gate's closed. Oh, this is a connector for your speaker. Just be careful when you're pulling it up. You don't want to apply too much. You don't want to break it by accident. Like if you disconnect the wires from the socket, you can have a whole ton of problems. Usually you can recover from something like that, but not always. Come on. Seriously? Why do you not like me? I don't like working on the side underneath the wires because if I fly up, I'm going to disconnect them abruptly. Okay, so the last couple screws are just over in here. We got our Z button one. Those are going to come off. The one that holds the actual board to this. And then the one that holds the last side of the actual circuit board. So try to make sure you guys can see this as we do this. Okay, Z button's off. It's nice enough to take its little rubber pad with it. Try to keep those together whenever you can. Sometimes they can affect how things fit back together. So, one more gold screw for the actual circuit board. And the last one, I think, is this one. I think this is the last one for the board. Okay. From what I understand, we don't need to remove the fan. So let's just see if we can lift this up nicely. Okay. So let's find out why we are not letting go, other than attachment issues. There we go. It's kind of important to try and get those off of there before you go too far in. They kind of... It's not so much the screwed in part that holds stuff together, it's the rest of it. It's this, it kind of creates a form fit. So we're just going to put that back in place. Yeah. Nice. Okay. All right. Speaker. Okay, next up. tools out of the way here. So now we got our circuit board. Pull that away very nicely. That's the main board. This is the motherboard of the device, as it were. So think of it like your computer, which game consoles are basically computers nowadays. So we'll set that aside. We don't need that anymore right now. Okay, the next part. The part we are all here for. There's the Joy-Cons. These are your, hold on. Arrow keys? No, those are your A, B, X, Y right here. So you don't have to remove that rubber plate. Honestly, I prefer not to. Again, sometimes things don't play so nice when you're putting them back together. The Joy-Con itself is held on by 2 screws. One right there, one with fingers pointing, and then one down here. Okay, and hold one out and take a good look at it. It's pretty rough. I bet interior, like inside wise, like it probably still works, but obviously we're not just gonna, it's not good. That's a pretty bad break. Okay, I'll show you our replacement. Okay. Okay, and now the ribbon cable does matter. And you may have to finesse the cable or the Joy-Con into place. The hole itself is not actually big enough for the Joy-Con. It's most certainly not what she said. Anyways. Okay, and... okay, so we're screwing that back in. Again, 2 screws. Easy peasy for that. You want to support it until the first screw is in, at least. Okay. Okay, Joy-Con is in. Nice and secure. Ooh. And it looks a little different. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't look like the original, but if it does the job, I really don't care. We may even go as far to replace the original, the other one, just so they match. But, I mean, if the person who owns this doesn't actually care, we're not going to enforce it. Okay, so now it's time to put her back together. Well, this is where you got to be extra cautious of all your ribbon cables and everything you disconnected, because now they are going to be in the way. So as the motherboard comes down, you need to make sure that nothing stands in its way. This is like a rebellion. I'm afraid your Switch will be very much operational when they arrive. This is what I mean. Got fat fingers like me. It's irritating because a bunch of the ones that I moved went right back where they were. Oh, I got a couple that did not stay in the spot they were supposed to. here. So we'll go over what we're going to reconnect as we do it. Because of where that speaker was, it will be very difficult to connect it once the board is actually screwed down. So we are going to kind of lay that in place. Okay, so because it sits in here, kind of like this, it's inside. So we need to let that be. You motherfucker. Okay, now we gotta fix some of our ribbon cables again because they fell back out of place. Okay, so that one. That one. That one. The very last one, obviously the most important one, and the reason we are here. You can fish your... There. That should do it. So we'll give it a once over, make sure we've got them all in sight, because you don't want to screw this down and then find out, oh, by the way, you buried one of your cables. Give it back. There. That was the last one. Last melon. Okay, so we got all these. We got the battery cable, which can serve a purpose in terms of like it can just kind of help us keep this clipped down. Once one clip is in place, it gets very difficult to... Come on, you jerk. So we're going to get this down. Yep, you'll feel that click into place when you do that, by the way. That's how you know you did it right. Then just put its ribbon cable back. Now, we're not going to do any of the other ones until the screws are back in place, or at least the ones that need to be done. Okay, when you're putting ribbon connectors back in, you want to make sure they're nice and flush with the part that holds them down before it's clipped down. So now you can see right there, it's got this little line kind of right here, and it is flush with the rest of it. So we can just clip it down. Battery's back in, and that is clipped down. So now let's get the Wi-Fi connectors back on. These are all the ones that are like, they do not have a screw in the way whatsoever, so we're just kind of taking care of them first. So you want to line this up so it sits on it almost perfectly, because you don't want to push too hard till you know you have a good connect. Because like I said, you can actually bend the pin in there and then it won't hold on to the cable connector properly. Oh, there we go. And again, close the lift gate once it's nice and even. We're going to put some screws back now. Okay, we got a frame screw on the outside here. We're going to do that first. So you can see which one I'm talking about. Just on the outer edge here. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to get another one for the speaker itself. All right, wonderful. Okay, speaker is screwed back in. Let's plug its cable back in now. It's in. It's tiny. Okay, it's tiny, guys. All right, nice and clipped into place. Now, we can start working on some of the other ribbon connectors that don't go underneath something, but I want to put the Z-Bud back on first. Okay. Okay, and that is again the two smaller gold screws. Shoulder button popped off when I wasn't paying attention. Son of a... That's just something you have to watch out for when you're doing these. The shoulder button it just loves to come off. Damn kids these days. You gotta try and do it so that the spring goes back where it belongs, because it can pop out. It's actually why I don't like the Z buttons and their design on this. place. Then more. Okay. We're going to do the 2 screws for the charging port. Okay, those are all back in now. So now it's time for these ribbons to go back on, so then the card reader can go back in. These ones are a little easier to deal with, in my opinion. Fuck you, ribbon connector. This is the part where I get fucking annoyed, because it's just a shitty place for a liftgate one too. Why couldn't it be like the other ones? Oh, the fun language is going to start coming out pretty fucking quick here. Fucking ribbon connectors. This is the one. This is the one that's being a fucking problem. 1 second. Okay, guys, so yeah, it took a little bit. We're back, but it took a little bit to get that connector on. This one specifically, it is in a kind of an awkward place, so its fold can be really, really hard to work with, trying getting into that connector, especially when the connector is currently, screwed down and everything. So we're going to quickly replace these shoulder buttons, because they kind of came out while we were doing that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that goes there. Actual shoulder Z button goes there. Okay, so we're going to continue with the video. We did, just as a cautionary thing, that part can be really, really difficult to clip back in. And I've never had that much difficulty with a ribbon connector. We went off camera, I'd say, for about 15 minutes trying to get it to reconnect. We did seem to get it. Obviously, when you're done with this kind of stuff, you do a whole bunch of testing just to make sure that you're not, that everything 100% works. Hard to do that if you're not 100% sure what it does, but I don't know. We'll keep an eye out for any issues here. I'm just gonna move this here thermal paste back to its normally assigned spot. And I think it's time for the headphone jack, and got all our ribbon connectors done over there. Just kind of going over all our connectors and stuff that has to be screwed in for other things can go back in. There's our speaker wire. We'll just push that down a little. Okay. Let's get this back in there. So this is again our card reader and headphones. Luckily, this is kind of freestanding, so it's kind of like the connector for it is out in the open. It's not hidden behind things. It's not at a weird angle. Anything silly like that. Okay. Just kind of gently clips into place. I mean, it's kind of an exact fit, so once you start putting some of the screws back, it's a little easier. We're going to test fit the CPU's heatsink, just make sure that it doesn't... Yeah, okay, that's good. I just wanted to make sure that it didn't go under versus above. Next, let's get some screws back in place. And one. There's three that hold this one down, if you don't remember. Thought I heard it turn on, just making sure that it didn't. Okay, we're going to bolt down the headphone jack next. Okay, that's closed. Time for the heatsink. Okay, and we're going to get into the screws for that. Okay, I think we've got all the non-heatsink screws in. So we're going to put that back next. Now, we have not reconnected that ribbon connector yet. We haven't done it yet. We didn't forget, we just haven't done it yet. Okay. So it's the one directly under the heat, under the fan. Okay. Just taking care of all the silver ones first. All right, we're almost done. Been a bit of a journey. Let's quickly slide that ribbon cable into place. That's the one right here. This is for the Joy-Con. So we're gonna quickly open the gate. It's a reverse lift gate, so the other one is the gate. The actual latch for it is on the other side. Okay, and I think that kind of does it for screws. Oh, there's one more that can go. All right. Don't like that sound. Not even one little bit. Okay, we go around, push down any of the clips that might be due on the other side. Those feel good. Fucking hate that sound when I'm near a screen. Okay, I think it's last bit of screws and then we're basically done. Don't like where this is sitting. There we go. Very nice. Okay, so putting the final screws in, and then we're going to test it. Alright guys, so we're all back together. Kind of didn't bother coming back for the last like 4 screws, so you have to excuse me on that. But I put some Joycon grips on them for it belongs to a kid, so I figured, let's have some fun, give them something kind of cool to go with their now fully functional Switch. So yeah, we did some pre-testing, but we'll go through it all with you just so you know. You can see that we actually completely and successfully revived this. So the last thing we didn't do was connect to Wi-Fi, and we're not going to do that in front of you, but we are going to tell it to look for something. So we can see the D-pad's working, the analog is working fine. That's also, like, it's acknowledging click down, screenshots works, but it won't let us actually save anything. Connection status. Just search for them. If it finds them, good enough. It found a whole bunch of connections. So, got an assortment of games. So we're just going to load up Minecraft here. And we have seen this work already. I'm just showing you guys that now this is 100% functional. And fun fact, when I was ordering these, I didn't order them for either the Switch or the Switch Lite. They really only had one kit, which means that the Switch Joy-Con component is the same on the Switch Lite. Like the actual piece that goes inside the device is the exact same thing. So you can replace it with a normal Joy-Con Switch. That was really weird. I saw those like kind of like weird like letters and stuff. I'm not sure if that was on purpose. So you can hear the speakers are working just fine. That's the home key. It's working just fine. So this is also it reading a game cartridge, by the way. Okay. Oh, it's loading. Yeah. And let's jump up and into the air. You can see we're moving around and stuff. We can full range of motion. There's all their stuff. Oh no. Recover the trident. You press this, that's all working. So you can see that's working. That's working. Switch weapon. All of the buttons are fully functional, but most importantly, that Joy-Con is doing its job. Oh, forgot you could descend with the Joy-Con. You push it down and it'll let you descend. All the other buttons obviously work. Speakers are good. So essentially, this is a completely successful switch out of this Joy-Con, and I can say that honestly, out of all the things I've repaired, I've never fought with a ribbon cable as much as I fought with that one. But after it was fixed, after the ribbon cable component was put in, obviously everything is working 100%. So I'm happy to return this to the original owner, and it's going to be really happy to give them their Joy-Con sticks. And yeah, the sticks themselves don't match. One of them's white, one of them's gray, black, whatever. But aside from that, everything we were trying to do there actually ended up working. So this is our second video as this, so I hope you check. If you're curious about how to do it on a normal Switch Joy-Con, go check out the video for that. That is, we'll make sure that that's linked so you can get to it nice and easy. But otherwise, thanks for checking out the video, guys. You can find me over on YouTube, Pydera Space 74, or over on Twitch, Pydera_74, especially if you want to catch some of our more live content. You can also support the channel in a couple other ways. Obviously, the first and foremost is liking, following, and subscribing. We appreciate the hell out of that. Plus, if you leave some comments, we'll have a chat with you, and it'll also, kind of help us on the algorithm and all that jazz. In addition to that, there's we have our online retro gaming store. You can go on there and it's called SV Retro Tech, and see if there's any games you're in the market for. If you're not sure or you have a specific request, leave a comment and we will see if we can find it for you. In addition to that, we also have our partnership with W.GG, which is an energy drink producer. Basically, you buy a tub of their energy drink, you can add some water, and each tub makes about 30 drinks, and it's jitter-free, pretty guilt-free energy drink. So they also have some awesome tumblers, hats, and sweaters. If you use creator code Pydera74, no spaces or anything, we actually get a tiny cut of that. So, help us out, man. The final one, and probably the most direct one, is our tip link. You can find that in the bio on our YouTube. And yeah, that's just basically sending us money. But we would appreciate it, and if you do, we'll make sure to throw a shout out to you, and also maybe if there's something special you want to request in terms of content, we may actually do that. See you guys next time, and take care.